Well, hello, my friend, and welcome to Super Bowl Sunday 2020, although you might not be joining me on Super Bowl Sunday. But if you are, I hope you have no idea what the score of the game is or who's even playing, because that's the boat that I'm in. So welcome to your yoga class. My name is Brenton. The name of tonight's class is called What Drives Me? And so this class is going to be part of a series of classes for the next 3 weeks called Key Movement Skills. And these have been skills that I've picked up over the last 10 years of practicing yoga that have been really instrumental in getting my body to work and feel better as a result. So what drives me is all about what forces are initiating our movement and being able to determine at any given moment, doesn't matter if you're on your yoga mat or you're at work or on a hike, what are the forces behind my movement that are initiating it and propelling it forward? And so I've pulled out 4 different forces that in my mind make sense. And the first being muscular strength, contraction, resistance in my muscles that is creating the movement that I'm doing. That's a very active force. But there might be passive forces at play as well in the creation of our movement, things like gravity, leverage, or momentum. And so gravity is anytime that gravity is sort of doing the work for you, where things are sort of falling, dripping. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you want gravity to be assisting you in your movements, and we'll definitely get to play around with sometimes where we are trying to resist gravity and sometimes where we're trying to work with gravity in this class. The other forces at play would be momentum. So when we're letting speed be the initiating factor of our movement, again, there are times that we want that to happen. There are times where we don't want that to happen. And then finally, the last one there is leverage. So that's when I'm using something outside, like the floor or a prop, or maybe it's even just like a body part where I'm using it to pull my body into a position that I wouldn't otherwise be able to generate just using my muscular strength. Again, there are times to use leverage, there are times to not use leverage. So we're gonna do full body movement practice where we're gonna explore all of these different forces behind our movement, hopefully get a lot smarter in our minds and in our tissues as a result, and then feel fantastic when we're done. So let's get started on our backs as per usual. And so your time on your back is to just come on down here, start moving around in any way that feels good to you. It's really, I think, about the first couple of minutes of our movement practice is priming the nervous system to move and to participate in the most optimal way possible. So see here if you can start breathing in and out through your nose. We'll try to breathe through our nose exclusively during our practice. We want to see if we can get the breath to go a little bit lower in the body, more towards the abdomen rather than the chest. And more like a 360-degree experience around the trunk rather than it just being on the belly side or out of the side waists. So this is just an invitation. And then we'll start resetting the pelvis, getting our glutes on. So go ahead, find yourself with your feet flat on the floor in any position that's comfortable for the ankles and the knees. We'll lift the hips up off the floor for bridge pose. So we'll pulse the pelvis here a little bit. And the first thing here is that in order to get the hips up, you have to fight against gravity because gravity wants the hips to go down. So in the going down portion of the movement, see if you can let gravity's effects be a little bit dampened by your muscular strength. So you're using the muscular strength of your buttocks and of your hamstrings to help support the bones as they go down rather than letting them just fall through space. Now see if you can hold your hips up. We'll really play around with gravity here. So what if you slowly, hopefully your butt is really fired here. We really want our butt to be the prime driver, our muscular strength there to drive that movement. But now what if you just softened the contraction of your right booty and you just let that hip bone go down with gravity towards the floor. And now ramp up the contraction of the right booty so that the hip bone lifts back up. Now we'll do the same thing on the left side. Let go slowly the muscular contraction of the left side so that gravity now is taking the pose. And now ramp up the contraction on the left side to lift the hip bone back up. Maybe you even take your hands to the front hip bones so you can start to feel when gravity pulls them down and up. We're just going to rock the pelvis like this a few more times. So here you can see this really nice interplay between the driving force of your muscular strength on the one hand and gravity on the other hand. And in this particular example, you can see how they're sort of opposites of each other. I do want to preface this that while we're doing this, we want to make sure that the low back feels good, doesn't feel pinched or crammed or jammed in there. And then when you're ready after this last one, let's go ahead, set the hips down, keep the breath going in and out through the nose, nice and easy. Let's interlock the hands behind the head. We're going to keep the chin tucked into the throat here. Keep your feet pressing down and forward and contract your belly muscles to lift your chest up off the ground. So really let go in your neck. Your neck has the full weight of gravity and your hands are what's stopping it from coming down to the floor. It's the contraction of the belly muscles here that are anchoring the organs. It's anchoring the low ribs and it's lifting the chest up to resist the gravity. As you feel ready, come back down. Now it's totally appropriate to just keep repeating this. If you're ready for a little bit more, we can take legs up. If you have a block at home and you want to put that between your legs, that's a great option. With legs up, you want to feel sacrum on the ground, but tailbone slightly lift if you can negotiate that for yourself. And then once again, lift up off the shoulder blades. So keep the chin nice and tucked into the throat. Your belly is working to lift the chest. And now we're going to let the legs draw an inch away from the abdomen, and gravity is going to want to take them more. So in order to stop them here, it's gonna load the abdomen more and make that contractile force a little bit stronger. Bring the legs up and come on down. All right, set the legs however you like. Come on up off the shoulder blades, head nice and soft into the hands. So here we're gonna lengthen the legs an inch, maybe 2 inches away from us, really using our contractile strength from the abdomen to resist the fall of gravity with the legs. As we feel ready, legs up and release. Let's keep going. Taking the legs up, here we go, lifting up off the shoulder blades, head nice and soft into the hands, lengthening the legs away an inch, 2 inches, using the belly to resist the gravity. Taking the legs up and release. Here we go, taking the legs up, coming on up off the shoulder blades, head soft into the hands. One more time, lengthening the legs, really keeping the pelvis anchored, the abdomen nice and strong. Bringing the legs back up and release. Do you got it in you to do one more? Really getting the abdomen on. Let's go ahead, lengthen the legs. Come on up off the shoulder blades, head soft into the hands. Lengthen the legs away. Stop gravity's force there as you really contract the abdomen. Bring the legs back up and let it go. Good job, we did it. Let's go ahead, roll on up to a seated position. I always like to take the legs wide here and just chill out for 30 seconds or so. So whether you'd like to kind of stretch forward a little bit, maybe you'd like to lean back and sort of rock and roll the pelvis forward and backward, anything is fair game here. All right, we're gonna start to play around with the idea of leverage here. The floor can be a really great place to experience what leverage feels like in some cases. So let's go ahead and roll over onto our knees. Take the elbows down under the shoulders. That's more narrow than you'd think. And then hands wide or clasped, that's up to you. Relax the head, tuck the toes, shift the knees off the ground. Maybe widen the base here. Lift high into the tippy toes. So one way of doing this pose is to just kind of push the forearms forward and really like open up the armpits and kind of slam the chest back. And that's using the floor to get a more push sensation. But what if we did this instead? What if you sort of backed out of that and you sort of lifted your rib cage more into your shoulder blades, more vertically, and you imagine that you're using your hands to pull energy to your elbows, and that your elbows are pulling energy up into your armpits. So instead of using the floor as leverage to push, now you're using it as a tool to pull. You're getting lots of contractile force into contractile force. I keep saying contractual. I deal too much with projects and contracts in my day-to-day life, so I'm always like, contractual deliverables. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about contractile force in the muscles. Okay, go ahead, come on down to the knees there. We'll come up to the hands. And same principle here in downward facing dog. So leverage is going to be more of like a push into the floor. So if we wanted to resist leverage doing our work for us, feel your fingers pull energy into the palm of the hand, like they're gripping towards the palm, and then energy right up the arms, so the arms are active, the ribs lifting into the shoulder blades, and then shifting the knees up off the ground an inch, keep the face nice and soft, and then shift the pelvis up and back for our first downward facing dog. Again, instead of pushing the floor, see if you can pull the floor up into the arms, into the shoulders. So you're resisting leverage doing your work, and instead you're letting your muscle strength do your work. So a lot of what drives our movement and optimizing that is getting our muscles to do the work actively, where we may have before been sort of passively relying on these other forces like leverage or gravity or momentum. So let's see, can we push off the hands one at a time, walking back to the feet there, weighting the feet, unweight the hands, release over the legs. If the legs are, or if the floor is too far, perch yourself up on your thighs or take your elbows onto like an ottoman or something like that. You can kind of sway out a little bit. You don't want the spine to feel overburdened in any place. So check in with yourself and really only go to the extent, the range of motion, that where everything kind of feels like it's evenly working, evenly benefiting from the position. Bend the knees, root down through the feet, slowly curl the front of the body to the back of the body to roll yourself all the way up. Ground the feet down wherever it's comfortable. For me, that's right underneath the hip sockets. Bringing the arms all the way wide and up to the sky. Nice and slowly floating them down. Doing that a couple of times here, reaching the arms up. Resisting the urge to just have gravity take them down super quickly. So you're letting them go. You're using your muscles to actually control them on their way down. Okay, from here, hands onto the pelvis. Soft little bend into the knee. Try to get neutral through your pelvis, your spine, your ribs. And keeping all of those relationships, hinge at the hips, extending back into the glutes, hip hinge. Press through the feet, drive the glutes forward so you stand up. So coming all the way back. And use your glutes, your muscle strength, to drive you up to stand. Okay? Doing that a couple of times. Trying to just get the glutes excited and familiar with their role in this whole lifting up and down to the floor business, so that when maybe later we add the element of speed and momentum, it's more likely that they'll remember their job during that as well. Okay, come all the way up to stand, reach the arms all the way up. Hinge forward. When your hips stop you, you can waterfall the spine all the way down. Relax through the head here. We'll walk ourselves forward back to downward facing dog. Again, resisting the urge to let leverage do all of our work. And instead of the pushing action, feel a pull up into the armpits and as if your arms wanted to pull you forward to plank. That's how your down dog is. So let your arms actually win that motion as you shift forward into plank. Shoulder blades set the height, you lift up into them. Throat lifts. Shift the hips up and back. Downward facing. Continue to flow forward and backward, trying to keep the muscle strength in the hands and the arms as you go forward and back. Okay, from here, we're gonna tap the knees down to the floor. We're gonna lift into the shoulder blades, and we're gonna resist gravity as we bend the elbows an inch back and push up. Resist gravity, back and up a few times. So resisting gravity is going to be slowing the motion down, trying to keep your spine, your pelvis, your ribs, all moving in one plane. Come all the way down. Release through the tops of the feet. Make sure the low back feels good. You need a little glute support there probably. And we'll tuck the chin. We'll hover the forehead off the ground. We'll take the hands behind the head. When the hands go behind the head, resist the front of the body, cracking open into the floor like a nut. Pull your front ribs to your back ribs, your front pelvis to the back pelvis. And then from here, we're gonna see if we can lengthen the arms out like wings. Rotate at the shoulders as we reach the arms down by our pelvis. Bend the elbows, lift the hands. Try to keep the hands hovering, not touching. Keep the chin tucked. Reach the hands back out like you're flying a cape. Turn in the shoulders, swimming the arms all the way forward. Bend the elbows at the top, hover the hands behind the head. See if we can do this one more time. Opening the arms out, moving the arms back, rotating, hovering the hands up above the pelvis, lifting the hands, breathing, it's challenging, taking the arms back, rotating, reaching the arms around, and then bending the elbows behind the head. Taking the hands down underneath the shoulders. All of that was resisting gravity. Keeping the shoulders lifting from the floor. Push up to the knees. Tuck the toes. Lift the knees. Shift the pelvis up and back, downward facing. Resist leverage doing your work here for you. And here today, we'll work with something called turbo dog. So here we want our chest to resist gravity. Our chest is not sinking down towards the toes or to the floor. Again, the chest is trying to lift up as if into plank as you bend your elbows back towards your knees, 1 inch. Really turbocharging that, feeling the arms shake there a little bit. We can do it. Breathe. Keeping the chest lifted so it's resisting gravity. And then we'll push off the hands, walking all the way back to the feet. Bending into the knees there, slowly rolling ourselves all the way on up, reaching the arms wide and high. Hands down. Keep breathing here, my friends. We're gonna take the hands to the pelvis, keeping ourselves nice and zipped up so we're muscularly strong all over our body. And then we're gonna lift the right leg out to the right for a half jack. Here, really getting into that right glute here, really lifting up through the rest of the body, pelvis in neutral. Now, as we walk it forward, gravity's gonna wanna swing the leg back really quickly. So we're gonna see if we can resist that momentum and that gravity and slowly lower it down in front, reaching the left leg out to the left, getting into that left booty. Hopefully you feel that, zipping up muscular strength all the way from the ground to the tip top of the head. Resist gravity and momentum as you take it forward, lengthening the right leg out. This time we'll pulse here and we'll see if we can just do really slow pulses to get the inside of the leg to start being the braking system. So now it's not just the outside of the leg that we're conditioning with strength, but we're asking the inside of the length to get more strength adaptations as it slows us down, bringing it back in. Okay, step it forward, taking the left leg out. Here we are. And same thing, we'll pulse, but it'll be slow pulses here. So getting the inside of the leg to be our braking system as it pulls the leg back in. Okay, taking the left foot by the right foot at the top of the mat. Here we go. Reaching the arms all the way up. Slowly lower down, hinging at the hips. We'll ground the hands underneath the shoulders. Keep the shoulders over the wrists as we move the feet back one at a time to plank. Your shoulder blades set the height. You lift up into it. We're going to resist gravity with the torso as we tap the knees down. We lift the knees up. Tap and lift. Really feel like the torso keeps resisting the force of gravity, lifting up into the shoulder blades. Tapping the knees, slowly lowering to the floor, resisting gravity. Okay, releasing through the tops of the feet there. Booty muscles on, low abdomen on, chin tuck, slide the hands underneath the elbows. In order to lift the hands, you have to use your muscular strength because gravity wants the hands to go down. So lift the hands and then unhinge the elbows, push back at the wrists a couple of times, keeping the chin nice and tucked. Front body compact to the back body. Keep the elbows unhinged back, work the wrists back and forth, just preparing them for some more weight bearing. As we feel ready, hinge the elbows, hover the hands, take the hands under the armpits, keep your shoulders lifting, keep yourself nice and strong. It's hard to resist gravity as you push your way up, but we can do it. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, shift the hips up and back, downward facing. Keep your chest moving as if it wants to go to plank as you bend the elbows back towards the knees an inch, turbocharging your dog. Getting the arms to work and shake a little bit. Keep lifting the ribs into the shoulder blades. Okay, pushing off the hands one at a time to walk all the way back to the feet there. Bending into the knees, slowly coming all the way up to stand. Reaching the arms all the way up, sliding the hands down. You feel how when it's muscularly very strong, you get so much warmer in your body. Let's go up and down with our ankles and our heels, really trying to get right up over the big toe, so keeping the ankles in a neutral position. Now you can feel here, right, where gravity just wants to take you right back down to the ground. Like, I don't like being up here, I want to go straight down. So you can get a lot of more strength adaptations in the calf as they lengthen if you try to slow it down, try to slow the descent down. Very challenging. Really try to slow the descent down. And hopefully you feel the calves really working. They're nice and pumped here. So they're used to their jobs. Once the muscles are used to their jobs, then sometimes it's nice to add in that element of speed, bring that in a very mindful way. So here, let's see if we can go a little bit faster now. Inviting a little bit of speed and momentum into this, keeping the spine nice and neutral. And in fact, if you even wanted to hop it, and feel the feet as a spring. Okay, you're at the back. Be at the back, come up onto your toes, and we're gonna try to resist momentum as we walk forward. Stagger walking, keeping the pelvis evenly set between the ribs and the armpits. Coming all the way to the top of the mat, keeping the heels nice and lifted. Do you feel your calves yet? Do you feel your feet muscles? Go ahead, lower down to the floor. See if you can keep breathing through your nose. Very important, keep breathing through the nose. Here we go, bringing the arms all the way up. Tipping forward over the legs. Keeping the shoulders over the wrists, stepping the feet back one at a time. Plank, top of a push-up. Draw energy from the hands all the way up. You decide if your knees are up or down, but we are trying to resist gravity as we slowly lower with our strength. Releasing through the tops of the feet here. Go ahead and slide the hands back under the elbows. Lift the chest, lift the pelvis, and lift back and up to downward facing dog. Okay, from here, we'll slowly walk the feet forward, weight shifting the shoulders over the wrists. The more slowly you go, the more you're resisting momentum. And sometimes momentum, we use it when we just want to get things over with really quickly. So when you feel that urge inside, see if you can slow it down. Bend down through the knees, slowly roll your way up. Reach up with the arms. Hands down. One thing we do a lot in yoga is we use a lot of leverage to create some of our positions. Here's an example of that. Have you ever gone into a chair pose, which we can go into now? And have you ever kind of put your elbow on your knee and used it to crank your torso into a twist? I bet we've all done it, right? Now, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with that, but we're not generating a lot of strength through the side body when we do that. So let's try it a different way today, shall we? Come down to a chair and have hands together. Spine in neutral. And from here, we're just going to start turning to the left and to the right, trying to hold our pelvis and our legs nice and still. Imagining that our spine has been shish kebabbed. You're rotating around your shish kebab. Now you can just rotate left and right like this, or let's go ahead, rotate right. See if we can decrease the space between the legs and the ribs and tap the elbow to the knee, and then press down, come all the way up, stretch the arms up. We're going to set down to chair, hands down together, close the distance between the legs and the torso as you twist to the left, maybe tap the elbow and knee, press down, stretch all the way up. Keep going. Really focus around pulling energy in to the column of the spine and contracting muscles around the full 360-degree rotation of the trunk. One more on each side. Okay, come on up. Hands down to the pelvis. We'll keep the right leg where it is. We'll step the left leg back for a lunge, but not so long of a stance that you have no choice but to sink into your joints with the weight of gravity on you. So shorten up the distance just a little bit. Get on the toe mound of your back foot as best you can. Bend the back knee a little bit so you can get your pelvis more upright and you can feel like your leg bones hug into the pelvis to help you resist gravity a little bit here. Now we're working with hip stability. Now the joints are positioned in a really functional, sustainable way. So you can do this pose tomorrow and the next day, and it will continue to feel really great for you. So try to get all your torso contents hugging back to the back wall of the body. Let's go ahead and find an arm variation that works for us without letting gravity do our work. Track the arms down and back like a cape, and then track the arms forward. Try to keep movement of the spine and ribs and pelvis to a very minimum as best you can. Okay? And then from here, we'll go ahead, take the hands together. We'll turn ourselves open to horse, heels in, toes out. We want the pelvis to be upright here. We'll do a little pulsing action, which for me always feels really great on the hips, because again, it helps me from sinking down with gravity into the hip joints, where I can find a place where the legs pull up into the pelvis, nice and supportive, and then I take the pose from there. Now, what if we wanted to toggle back and forth between high lunge and this pose, what we just did? Feel your legs hug in, resisting the force of gravity as you pivot forward, back to high lunge. I'm actually going to use my hands to map here, front pelvis and front ribs, and I don't want any of this stuff to change as I open to horse. So you do you. The hand mapping is just very, very helpful for me. And again, I'm trying not to find a position where the joints ever feel like they're sinking. I always want to feel like the legs are pulling up into the pelvis. So let's go ahead, open to horse, and then turn it to warrior two to the right. So left toes to the long edge of the mat, right toes to the front edge. Make sure that the joints feel like they're in a soft position, your ankles, your knees, your hips, and that the torso, all of those contents feel like they can brush into the back body. I'm gonna take the arms out here, if that feels okay for you too. Just like we did in our twist, we wanna feel ourselves nice and hugged in at the side body here. So as we reach up with the right arm, we're not falling on the left side of the body. We want the left side of the body to still pull in to the center as we reach up along that right side. Same thing as we go to the other side. So as we flow back and forth, pay attention to the short side of your body, the short side that feels like, oh, wouldn't it just be so easy to let gravity do that work? And instead of letting gravity do that work, get that side body to really integrate in towards the spine so everything's helping create that shape. Okay, as we feel ready from here, we're gonna turn back to the front. Here we go. We're gonna unweight the back foot, stand on the right foot, and draw the left leg up in front of the body. Now, this would be leverage if I'm leaning back with the spine to counterbalance this. So take leverage out, get yourself nice and lifted up over the standing leg. And now from here, we're gonna try to move everything, the whole torso as a single unit as we hinge over the standing leg. That could be an inch, it could be several inches, like whatever you're personally prepared for, and come back up. So really don't feel like, and especially when you're at home, this is why I love practicing at home, because there's no one there to compare yourself to. I mean, sure you have me, but who cares, right? Even go to a countertop and use a countertop for this to take some of the balance out of it. And when you're trying to move everything in a steady relationship, that's another aspect of resisting gravity. So from here, hold your hip hinge. See if you can press your foot back into warrior three, and then dangle the left arm. So let the left arm go with gravity, but not the shoulder. So plug your shoulder in, left arm goes, and it swings forward, backward. Woo, chin staying tucked into the throat. As we feel ready, send your left foot all the way to the back, hands down, right leg up, one-legged dog. So we already know the principle of strength versus leverage here, right? Now we're gonna work with this lifted leg. Bend the leg into the abdomen without moving your back. We're gonna slowly start to move it around in some controlled hip circles. So gravity and momentum are really gonna wanna do your job for you here. And I would encourage you to resist gravity and momentum's help as much as possible as you circle the hip in two directions. Okay, now with as little momentum as possible, bring your right knee in, shift your shoulders forward over your wrists, and keep your knee drawing into your chest as you take the foot down to the floor wherever it lands. See if you can unweight the hands, step on the right foot, draw the left knee up in front of the body. No leverage here, leaning back. So the left hip is in flexion. From here, we're gonna see, now here's where leverage can be our friend. You're gonna grab onto the left knee if you can, and without moving your back, squeeze it up. So now you're using leverage to create a more intense hip flexion than you might otherwise be able to create on your own. But now here's the kicker. Ask your muscle strength to hold it. Take the leverage away, hold it, hello. Bring the leverage back. Use leverage to draw it up into a more passive range. See if you can take leverage away. Use your strength. So you're trading your forces here. Leverage, strength. Okay, go ahead. Lengthen that leg out and down. Feel your legs. Keep breathing through your nose. You can take a sip of water if you want. I will. And one more thing to do. So stand on the right foot again. Left leg up. Okay. So this time, taking the hands underneath the thigh. And this is just helping because gravity wants to take it down. So now you're helping your body resist gravity with a little bit of leverage and support right here, right? So flex through the left foot, extend through the knee as much as possible without changing the rest of the body. Bend into it, straighten, bend, straighten. And now that you have this little bit of leverage here, you don't want to straighten so much that it's pulling you out of sort of like balanced joint positions, right? So we never want to use our leverage as a substitute for balanced joint positions, which for me personally, it took several years because in yoga, we sort of gratify these really big end range positions, right? Let's go ahead and release that. In yoga, I idolize those in some ways. And so we want to use leverage, the power of leverage, in just these little teeny tiny right ways, where it's just getting us a little bit more than we might otherwise be able to create on our own. But then we're always trying to bridge the gap